Welcome back to a brand new video on the channel, guys. So what I have for you guys today is going to be quite an interesting video, I feel like. Today, what we're going to be doing, we're going to be ranking every championship stadium for the upcoming season from worst to best. So I do feel like this is going to be quite an interesting video, which will spark quite a few debates in the comments down below. So of course, this list is going to be entirely opinion based, and there's no right or wrong answer for this one. But as the fixtures were released the other day for the upcoming championship season, it got me thinking about which stadiums am I most excited to go ahead and go to this season. So of course, I've not visited every ground in the championship. I can't say that myself, although this season I am looking to go to more than ever than I have done before. Hopefully I'll be able to go to as many away games as possible this season, and maybe even start vlogging them if you guys would like to see that. Also, before we go ahead and get into the list, I must say that this may be the last video on the channel for about a week or so, unless I'm able to pre-record some videos over this weekend. I am away on holiday on Monday, and I'm away for a week, so there probably won't be too many videos going up on the channel over the next week or so, and that's the reason why, as I am away. But I will try and get some videos pre-recorded so you guys can still get some championship content. Also, as well as commenting down below what you think are the worst and best stadiums in the championship, I'll leave a poll in the description for you guys to go ahead and vote on. So basically what that poll will be, it will list all the stadiums in the championship, and I want you guys to go ahead and select what your favourite 5 are, and then at the end of the season I'll go ahead and redo my list, as I will hopefully have visited a lot more of these grounds, and basically we'll compare what your guys' opinions were and what my opinions were, and we'll see how similar or dissimilar they actually are. So I will be judging each championship stadium on a number of criteria. That's basically how I've constructed this list. So the first thing will be what they actually look like and their overall design, whether I like it or not. Next thing will be how good the atmosphere at this stadium is. Also, as well, the attendances will be taken into consideration, and as well as that, we're also going to be considering how much the tickets are to actually go to these away games. So without further ado, guys, we'll be going from worst to best, and let's jump into this list. So coming in at the bottom of the list, I do apologise, but it is going to be the DW, in my opinion, home of Wigan Athletic, of course. A fairly modern stadium. It was opened in 1999 and holds 25,000 people. Last season in League One, Wigan were averaging around about 9,000 people there. Whenever I've been there, it's never really had the best atmosphere, I can't lie about that. And it just doesn't really get me excited as an actual stadium, you know. All the stands are very similar, and it just appears as a little bit dull to me. As well as that, it also lacks a bit of character, really, of course. Wigan do share it with the rugby team, and the fact that it's called the DW Stadium, you know, it's named after a business, I'm not a fan of that, you know. When a stadium's named after a company or a business or something like that, that's always going to put it down in my estimation. Then coming in at 23rd on the list, we have the Madejski, home of Reading FC, and honestly, I'm just not really a big fan of this type of stadium. We see a lot of these really in English football. It's that typical circular stadium, the modern type. It just lacks personality and character and individuality, and I think because of that, the atmosphere at Reading home games really has suffered over the last few years. You know, it is a big stadium, and you know, it holds over 24,000 people, but the atmosphere there, because of the way it's constructed, never really seems to get going. So for that reason, the Madejski is going to come in at 23rd. In at 22nd, we then have the smaller stadium in the championship. That is the New York Stadium, home of Rotherham United. Now, myself as a Preston fan, I just don't have good memories of this stadium, of course. Back in 2014, Preston went ahead and lost a playoff semi-final there, and ever since then, it's never really been a great place to go to for me, of course. The last time they were in the championship as well, the atmosphere wasn't brilliant there. Obviously, a main contributing reason to that was they were sat at the bottom of the table for pretty much the whole of the season. It was built in 2012 and holds 12,000 people, so for a fairly modern stadium, it looks alright to me, but it just doesn't have that real character to it, in my opinion. Then in at 21st on the list, we have the Den, home of Millwall. Now, I feel a bit bad for putting Millwall in this position, as there are a couple of reasons why I really like this stadium, but then there are quite a few reasons why I really don't. Some of the reasons why I really like this stadium is the home form that Millwall showed last season was absolutely fantastic. The main reason for that was the atmosphere at the Den can be absolutely fantastic. You know, we all know Millwall are a very passionate fan base. The stadium itself was opened in 1993 and holds 20,000 people. Last season, Millwall were averaging around about 13,000 people, so it was pretty good for an atmosphere. However, there are a couple things which I don't like about this stadium. First thing is, each of the stands are pretty much identical, so that just makes it look a little bit bland to me. As well as that, one thing that I cannot stand about this is every time Millwall score a goal, they play goal music, and I don't know what you guys think of goal music, let me know down below, but I cannot stand it. Every time the ball hits the back of the net, that same song comes on, and honestly, it would just drive me to insanity. Up next in 20th, we then have Portman Road, home of Ipswich Town. Once again, the stadium who, in recent years, it has lacked some atmosphere, you know, especially last year when the atmosphere at Portman Road really started to look really toxic at times, you know. The atmosphere that the Ipswich fans had with Mick McCarthy, it wasn't brilliant. In terms of the stadium itself, for away fans, I'm not sure if it's like this for home fans, but there is literally no legroom there, so I'm not a big fan of that at Portman Road. It is a fairly big stadium for the Championship. It holds around 30,000 people. However, when Ipswich are averaging attendances of around about 15,000 people, that obviously leaves half the stadium empty, which doesn't look brilliant and doesn't really contribute to creating an overwhelming atmosphere there. In at 19th place, we then have the kickoff, home of Hull City. Another stadium similar to Ipswich, really, where the atmosphere in recent years really has started to seem quite toxic at this football club, of course. The average attendances have rapidly decreased at Hull over recent years, of course. Main reason for that is the issues they're having with the owners at the moment, but that just takes something away from the away experience when you go to a stadium like the kickoff. It's in that similar shape again, that circular shape of every typical modern football stadium, and because of that, it just really lacks character and individuality. It was opened in 2002 and holds 25,000 people, but as you will probably be able to tell by now, I am much more of a fan of traditional stadiums than I have modern stadiums, really. Coming in at 18th on the list, we then have QPR, quite a traditional stadium, of course, Loftus Road. It was opened in 1904 and holds 18,000 people, so one of the smaller stadiums in the Championship, but there is a certain charm, I think, about Loftus Road, which I do quite like about it. The way that the stands are positioned, so they're so close to the pitch, and the way that it's built up really does create a good atmosphere, you know. It's a really enclosed stadium, which I do like about it. However, there are a couple of things I don't like about it. The legroom at Loftus Road really isn't great, and some of the areas where you can sit in the like restricted view areas are just ridiculous. Like, you can't see half the pitch half the time at QPR because either a bit of the roof will be in the way or a pole will be in the way. So for that reason, QPR is coming in 18th. In at 17th, we then have Ewood Park, home of Blackburn Rovers. It's quite a nice stadium in my opinion. The only thing that lets Ewood Park down is the Riverside stand, I think it's called. That's the smallest stand they've got at Blackburn, and it really does show its age. You know, it's starting to rust a little bit and stuff like that, and it is starting to look a bit tacky compared to the other three stands, which I think are really nice. And as well, Ewood Park is one of those stadiums which has goal music. I'm not sure if they still had it, but the last time I went there, they played this after Blackburn scored. Once again, similar to Blackburn Rovers, really, we have St Andrews coming in at 16th on the list, and there is one stand which does let this stadium down, in my opinion, and that is, of course, the main stand at Birmingham City. That's starting to look a little bit run down, and it really is starting to show its age. But in terms of St Andrews in general, it dates back to 1906, and it was obviously renovated in the 90s. It holds 29,400 people, and I have been on a couple of away trips to Birmingham, and I do quite like it. It's a decent experience when I go there. One thing I do remember is the last time I went to St Andrews, the announcer there was just absolutely like, he was really hyped up for that game whenever Birmingham scored. In at 15th, we then have the Riverside, home of Middlesbrough. This is a fairly modern stadium. Once again, it was opened in 1995 and holds 34,000 people. Last season, Middlesbrough had an average attendance of 25,000 people, which is pretty decent for the Championship. You know, it goes on to create a decent atmosphere there. However, with these modern stadiums, you know, it's in that similar design. I still feel like this one lacks real character. However, I do like the location of it, you know. Any stadium that's sat next to a river, I'm already a fan of that. In at 14th, we then have the Macron, home of Bolton Wanderers. Now, for a fairly modern stadium, you know, you'll have seen from this video so far, I'm not really a big fan of modern stadiums, but for this one, I actually quite like it. I think that the design for this one makes it look like a really individual stadium. I really like the floodlights. Any stadium with floodlights, and I'm going to be a fan of it. I just love floodlights on stadiums, but this one works really well. The roof as well, I like how it curves in. That gives it a nice sense of individuality. However, the fact that it's named after a sponsor being called the Macron, and before this it was called the Reebok, that really really does put it down in my list. I can't be putting it any higher when the name of the stadium is a sponsor. In at 13th on the list, we have the Liberty Stadium, home of Swansea City. And this is actually Preston North End's first away game of this season. So I may be going to this one, and I'm quite excited to go to the Liberty. I've never been before, but once again, follows that similar design of modern stadiums being in that bowl shape. It does look pretty fresh for a modern stadium, I'm not going to lie about that. However, it does still lack that uniqueness. The stadium was opened in 2005 and holds 21,000 people. I'll be interested to see what the attendances are like for Swansea now that they're back in the Championship. Then in at 12th, we are at the halfway mark, and we are going to have Griffin Park, home of Brentford. Now, I feel like this is one of the stadiums where you either love it or you hate it. So I've got a feeling that this could appear either very high on people's lists or very low, of course. It is one of the smaller stadiums in the Championship, only holding 12,500 people. However, I just think it's got a certain charm about it, of course. It's a very old-fashioned stadium. It's got the old-school terraces on it, which I think makes for a great atmosphere at Griffin Park. You know, you can actually stand up in Griffin Park, which I think is fantastic. As well as that, there is also a pub on every corner of the ground, which, I mean, what's not to love about that? To me, the only disappointing thing about this is that Brentford will, of course, soon be moving out of Griffin Park. They're getting a new stadium soon, so that's a shame for me because I am quite a big fan of it. Then coming in at 11th on the list, I mean, it wouldn't really be a Championship themed video without Preston being sat 11th in the table, but Preston and Deepdale are going to come in at 11th. Of course, I am a Preston fan, so I may be being a bit biased about this, but in terms of the actual stadium design itself, honestly, I'll be putting Preston in the top 5. I think that the design of Deepdale is just absolutely fantastic. It's so unique in such a historic stadium. Of course, it dates back to 1875, and it just has an abundance of character, of course. The floodlights at Deepdale are the best in the Championship, without a doubt. As well as that, each of the stands are so unique with player faces on them. You know, we've got Tom Finney, we've got Bill Shankly, Alan Kelly. It just gives it a really unique feeling and a really good sense of character in there. However, there are some factors about Deepdale which do drag it down to 11th. And the main two reasons for that are the atmosphere and the attendances. Overall, I'm not going to lie, the atmosphere isn't always brilliant at Deepdale. Don't get me wrong, if it's a big game for us, you know, if it's like a playoff game or if it's a derby game, the atmosphere can be absolutely buzzing around Deepdale. But if it's just a standard Championship game, you know, say we're playing, I don't know, Ipswich or someone like that, the atmosphere is never really brilliant. But now we are moving on into the top 10 Championship stadiums, in my opinion. And coming in at number 10, we do have Ashton Gate, home of Bristol City. Since the redevelopment, of course, which has recently taken place, I'm actually a big fan of Ashton Gate. I think it is a very smart stadium indeed. Currently, it holds 27,000 fans, and with Bristol City last season averaging 21,000 people, that's a really decent turnout for Bristol City. You can't deny that. It goes on to create a really good atmosphere, and I like how they blended the sense of modern, but it still remains its traditional character, in my opinion. So Ashton Gate comes in at number 10. I think it's a good stadium. Then coming in at number 9, we have the Bet365 Stadium, and don't get me wrong, I'm not a fan of the name, but the stadium itself I actually really like, and this is one of the away games going away to Stoke, which I'm really looking forward to going to this year. The stadium holds 30,000 fans, and the atmosphere around the stadium is said to be very good. You know, I think that in the Premier League, Stoke had one of the highest average decibels of home fans, so that already is going to create a good atmosphere in the Championship. Then coming in at number 8 on the list, we have Pride Park, home of Derby County. Now, I know I have constantly bashed modern stadiums throughout this video, however, Pride Park is a bit of an exception for me. I do actually like Pride Park. I think that for a modern stadium, I think it does look very smart actually, and the atmosphere which the Derby fans are able to generate in this on its day can actually be a really good stadium. I think the overall design looks quite fresh. It of course holds 33,000 people, and last season in the Championship, Derby actually had the 5th highest average attendance with 27,000 fans, which of course is an excellent turnout for a Championship club and goes to generate a really good atmosphere. Then in at 7th on the list, we then have the Hawthorns, of course, home to West Brom, and once again this is an away game which I'm really looking forward to going to this season. The stadium dates back to 1900 and holds 26,000 people. I feel like this is one of the grounds which still manages to remain that traditional sense and character about it while still being a fairly modern stadium. Coming in at number 6, we then have Carrow Road, home of Norwich City. Once again, quite a traditional stadium. This goes ahead and dates back to 1935, and I feel like it does still have that traditional feel to it. It's in a very nice location, in my opinion, and I'm always a fan of the floodlights. Like I said, any stadium that's got floodlights, I'm going to be a fan of that. One thing that must be said about Carrow Road is it holds 27,000 people, and Norwich pretty much, you know, near about sell out every single week. And for a championship club, that's pretty much unheard of. So that goes to generate a really good atmosphere at Carrow Road, and you can't take it away from that. You know, any club which goes ahead and sells out most weeks, fair play to Norwich. And now, guys, we are moving on into the top 5 championship stadiums, and coming in at number 5, we are going to have Hillsborough, in my opinion. Of course, this stadium holds 39,700 people and is one of the biggest in the championship, and without a doubt, one of the most traditional. It goes ahead and dates back to 1899, and when it's full, the atmosphere can be absolutely electric. However, there are a few areas of this stadium which really are starting to show the age of Hillsborough. You know, some areas are starting to rust and stuff like that. That sort of takes away from the experience, as well as that the prices which Sheffield Wednesday pay for an away game can be pretty ridiculous. Then coming in at number 4 on the list, we then have Bramall Lane, home of Sheffield United. I've actually been to Bramall Lane quite a few times as a Preston fan, but I have never seen Preston win there. It sort of seems to be a bit of a bogey ground for us, but hopefully next season we'll make that change. It holds 32,000 people, and last season they had an average attendance of 26,000 people, so the atmosphere generated there is always going to be good. The ground itself goes ahead and dates back to 1855, and each stand I feel like has its own unique feel to it, which I'm a big fan of. Coming in at number 3, for me personally, we're going to have the City Ground, home of Nottingham Forest. I feel like most championship fans do enjoy a good away day to Nottingham Forest. I think it's a really good away day. I've been there a couple of times, and I think that its location next to the river is really nice. It's a really good setting for a football stadium, and it still has that traditional feel to it. The stadium itself goes ahead and dates back to 1898 and holds 30,000 people. The only thing that lets this stadium down, in my opinion, is the Peter Taylor stand, which does need to be redone a little bit, as it does sort of drag the stadium down. Then coming in at number 2, we are going to have Ellen Road, of course, home of Leeds United. Probably going to be some Leeds fans who aren't happy that I'm putting them second, but in my opinion, they do have the second best stadium in the championship. Of course, Leeds fans do get a lot of stick thrown at them, but you can't take it away from them, really. The atmosphere at Ellen Road can be absolutely fantastic. Even when they have been dreadful in previous years, the support that they've shown at Ellen Road has not faltered, and you've got to respect them for that. The stadium itself dates back to 1897 and holds 38,000 people. The only thing that lets Ellen Road down, similar to Sheffield Wednesday, is the prices that they charge for away fans is absolutely ridiculous. You know, you look like you could be charged over £40 sometimes for a ticket to go to watch Leeds away, which is just madness. But coming in at number 1, and the best stadium in the championship, in my opinion, is going to be Villa Park, home of Aston Villa. For me, this is the best ground in the championship. The ground overall just looks very fresh and has that traditional feel to it. It holds 42,000 people, of course making it the biggest in the championship. And in my opinion, it's just one of those away games which you always really look forward to. The stadium dates back to 1897 and has obviously a rich history surrounding it, of course, of holding FA Cup semi-finals back in the day. The whole tent generates a fantastic atmosphere when it's, you know, a big derby game, and the atmosphere can really get going then. So in my opinion, guys, the best stadium in the championship is Villa Park. So as you can see on screen now, guys, there are my rankings from worst to best of each championship stadium. I'm very interested to get your guys' opinions on whether you agree or disagree with this list. Let me know down below. But guys, that will now wrap it up for this video. So if you have enjoyed, make sure you leave a like. It is always massively appreciated. Like I said, I'm not expecting everyone to agree with me on this one. In fact, I'd be surprised if many people did agree with me, of course. This is a highly subjective video, which I'm interested to get your guys' opinions on. But apart from that, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe for some regular championship content. Like I said, I am on holiday next week, so the videos may slow down on the channel for the next week or so, but stick with me and we will be getting back to championship content soon. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.